is Hardlife Mudzingwa. I'm the Programs Manager for Community Water Alliance. We have been collaborating with combined narrates associations on a number of interventions meant to assist residents on issues of access to water, looking at several issues, whether it's on availability of water, accessibility in terms of distance and price, and acceptability of the water in terms of its taste, odor, as well as quality. CHRA made a lot of interventions, both as an institution and also in collaboration with Community Water Alliance. The first one being the removal of fixed water charges in Mvuku. Mvuku had not received water for quite a long time, and there were serious questions on debt justice in the water sector, where people were billed for water consumption, when in actual fact they had not received any drop. So CHRA then made a serious advocacy intervention, collaborating of course with Community Water Alliance, to ensure that the fixed water charges are removed from residents from the bills of residents of Mvuku. And the local authority was responsive, of course, after quite an array of interventions and engagements of both the public in Mvuku, to ensure that the citizen agents at the ground and engaging also the relevant policymakers in Mvuku, particularly councillors who were sitting in the chambers under the city of Harare. And for each household, a figure of around $138 was removed after an array of interventions that were done by Combined Resident Association, and that brought two positive benefits. First, it addressed the issue of debt justice that I've talked about, where people were paying for what they have not consumed, and it sort of encouraged the residents to then participate, because the process had serious ownership of the local communities in terms of pushing policymakers at ward level, and also ensuring that those interventions are also echoed through full council resolution that was passed by the 46 councillors in Harare. And it had the benefit not only of, though it was started in Mvuku, it had the benefit of even other areas, Boronde and Bluded, which had not received water for some time. So the first benefit was on debt justice. It brought justice in terms of ensuring that people are billed for what they've consumed. Then secondly, was the issue of dealing with unjustified debt, and which ultimately, because I think people are quite aware that the local authority in its strategic plan earmarked the issue of attachment of property through issuing of summons to then attach property for those that are defaulting in terms of payment. So it addressed also that component, because it reduced the amount that was purported to be owed by citizens in Mvuku on water to the local authority. So to then tie to that aspect, Combined Residents Association had also to undertake legal clinics dealing specifically with issues of summons, awareness, and providing education to say what do you really need to do when you are faced with a summon, because there were several cases of people who had lost their property attached by the local authority, of course with the engagement of the messenger of court, but riding on section 31 of the Constitution, which ensure that which provides that citizens have to get legal aid, particularly those that are indigent, who cannot afford the costs of engaging lawyers and legal practitioners. So then Combined Residents Association came to their rescue, targeting the marginalized, those who had who didn't have strong economic muscle to engage lawyers to deal with those cases. So there was a massive drive on awareness. There was a massive drive on education, particularly looking at the processes involved when one is issued with a summon, because majority of the cases that were won by the local authority were default judgments. That were won because of the ignorance of our citizens on these aspects. So the purpose then was to conscientize. The purpose was to inform, so that people do not lose property because of ignorance. I think you are quite aware that ignorance of the law is not an excuse when it comes to the legal field. So then the Combined Narrates Association made a serious drive in Harare, visiting communities, providing civic education, and it helped a lot. And beyond education, even partnering with other institutions, those that are dealing with paralegals, which was also Community Alliance included, but also even Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, to help in the crafting of defendant's plea, in the crafting of appearance to defend, so that people do not, particularly those that are the indigent, those who cannot afford the cost of legal representation, get legal assistance from these institutions. And then beyond that, the other menace which still revolve around the issue of debt was the issue of course, of wellcash debt collectors. The local authority had engaged a debt collector to help collect what they purported to be owed by citizens, and it brought a lot of suffering, it brought a lot of pain on citizens, especially those that are in the high desert suburbs. And Combined Narrates Association, collaborating with Community Alliance, approached the Legal Society of Zimbabwe to then look at the legal provisions in terms of the operations of wellcash debt collectors. It was, of course, after the realization that the law, particularly when we're looking at Section 7, 8, 9, and 10 of the Legal Practitioners Act, doesn't allow anyone who's not a lawyer, anyone who's not a legal practitioner, to then issue summons, as was being done by wellcash, threatening citizens. When in actual fact that privilege, in line with the provision that I've quoted, was something that was supposed to be done by lawyers. So a meeting was held with the Law Society of Zimbabwe, and after the meeting there were deliberations and discussions and agreements, and one of the route was to use public interest litigation to stop wellcash debt collectors from terrorizing residents. And there was a legal suit against wellcash debt collectors, and of course the costs were in terms of litigation costs, they were paid by Law Society of Zimbabwe. They provide free legal representation, and from CHRA's perspective, the role that CHRA had to play related to collaborating with Community Alliance, looking at victims so that they become applicants in the process, and even having meetings, feedback meetings, reviewing the successes and what needs to be done in terms of that process, and even rallying the masses. They're very strong, that is Combined Narrates Association Facebook campaign. In fact, a campaign that went beyond Facebook, but also made use of social media, which was codenamed #WellcashMustFall. And the case was brought before the courts. It took some months to have this date for trial, and it was set for a trial. And after the trial, the learned judge then ruled that wellcash was operating outside the confines of the law. That was great relief to residents. And then riding on that ruling, it helped not only in Harare, it helped advocacy work for other RAs, particularly in Rua, in Chitungwiza, where there were similar full council resolutions relating to engagement of debt collectors on these issues. So the Met actually was a strong advocate. It's true, it also set precedent in the courts, so that in the future any of such challenges have the ruling of the courts. So that actually helped a lot in the water fraternity. It helped a lot in terms of access to justice, particularly for those who cannot afford, like I've said. So the whole question of the intervention of CHRA was around debt justice, and looking specifically at those that are billed for what they have not consumed. Then the other issue also, which is the last one, was on fixed water charges. Historically in Zimbabwe, fixed water charges were charged. Fixed water charges were charged on those was meant to cater for infrastructure development. And in Harare, we had a serious challenge where, since independence, the upgrading of pipes, the upgrading of distribution, system in the water sector was not done adequately, and there was no moral moral basis for the local authority to continue billing for fixed water charge when they were not upgrading the infrastructure. And then secondly, there was very high non-revenue water, and amongst the 60% of the non-revenue water, which is currently even up to date, which is the current situation at the moment, there was physical losses through leakages because of obsolete and dilapidated infrastructure, and it was accounting for 45%. So even at the moment, so 45% of what is being produced by the city of Harare in terms of water is lost through physical losses, that is your leakages emanating from obsolete infrastructure. So then CHRA, partnering with other institutions, it was very important and prudent to then challenge the moral basis of charging for fixed water charges, when in actual fact the infrastructure was not upgraded. That took a lot of interventions. The nucleus, of course, was Mavuku, as an area that had serious water challenges, and I'm glad to also report that through a focus on resolution, City of Harare resolved that they will not charge fixed water charges.